Rusty, welcome back to Archers of Horror. On this podcast, we watch every horror release from Arrow Video, and our film this episode is Doom Asylum. My first question for you is this a film?
Well, there was a screenplay, but I'm not really sure.
Well, why don't you think about it next time before you open your big mouth?
I'm positive that screenplay could not have been more than 45 pages. Before we go on, Rusty, I just want to say last episode with Sabrina, where we talked about Donnie Darko, I had quite a plea to get ratings on iTunes, and none of you people rated this podcast.
Absolutely zero.
I told Rusty I was going to make a big stand about this, and here it is. We currently have 57 ratings on iTunes. I will donate $5 for every rating to the American Genre Film Archive, which is a real organization. It's not like an LLC that I've acquired. $5 for every rating between now and next episode. Rusty, what do you think about that plan?
There's not much incentive there to donate to rate. Are you really going to make that donation? Wait, how do we monitor you to make sure you're actually doing it?
I'll tweet out the receipt shortly before our new episode goes up. And the incentive is that the American Genre Film Archive, from what I know about it, which is incredibly little, does a good service in collecting movies not unlike Doom Asylum that, let's just say, the Library of Congress is not going to be saving.
How hard could it be?
How
hard can it be to rate the show? Come on.
And just to reiterate why we're so into this is because we did have those 19 one-star reviews, which we'll always be dealing with. And so please, we know more and more people listen to this show. Help us out, people.
I'm single. I have few hopes, few dreams. And besides, that drummer is kinda hot.
Doom Asylum. You were the one who picked this film. Are you glad you picked this movie?
It certainly resonated with me, so I actually am quite pleased with my pick.
Really? That's interesting. Just to give a little background on this movie, it is a very independent movie made for $80,000 to $90,000 in 1987, shot in an insane asylum in New Jersey, not operational insane asylum. It was directed by a guy who directed some episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, and it's how would you encapsulate the plot of this?
It's very simple. It's very straightforward.
It is.
Person wants to avenge his. Was it ever established if they were married? I guess it was his lover.
Yeah,
his lover's death, and he takes refuge in a abandoned asylum and just kills any trespassers.
Yeah, it's a kind of a parody slasher movie, and the slasher villain that this guy is a autopsy doctor. I'm sure there's a word for what those are called, and it's kind of a weird thing because he was actually a lawyer when he died.
See, that's where I was confused. That's the one thing that went over my head. How did he become like a demented coroner, as the tagline says?
It was kind of indirect. It was as if you looked at Jason Voorhees and you saw the hockey mask, and you're like, oh, there he is, the killer football player. It was like a real disconnect because he'd also make jokes where he talked about being a lawyer.
It looks like the has a good lawsuit. I'd be glad to handle it for a reasonable fee.
The thing is that if you wanted to have a slasher where the villain was a demented coroner, could have gotten to that in a much more direct way.
Now, if he was a coroner, he would have to have some understanding of the human anatomy. Wouldn't he fix some of those wounds on himself?
Well, that's
just leaving these untreated wounds. I'm sure they would have been infected by now.
The other thing is that the guy was actually not that fucked up in the accident. And he ends up losing his face, I guess, in the autopsy, which who knows why they're even performing an autopsy on this guy.
Well, the person that performed the autopsy, the Jeff Goldblum lookalike, he was just hacking away. He was like taking off muscles on the face. Like that would never be performed in an autopsy.
I am now removing epidermis from frontal to trapezius. Coming over from malar to mandible, no visible damage.
Rusty, have you ever seen a movie in your life that more shamelessly pads its running time? I have seen so many movies do this. I've been a part of movies that did this. I've never seen a movie this shameless. There's so much of people traveling to where they're going.
Oh yeah, this is the whole narration of them doing where they're going. Like each character before they get killed narrates them walking down like the corridor.
And they'll walk down. It's like, you could go down one hallway. You get that they're going down a hallway. It was like they go down a hallway. They turn. They're going down another hallway. It's like up some stairs, down some stairs.
Hey, assholes! Can't you read? Do not enter!
You know what scene that stood out just for the adding the running time?
Go on.
Do you remember when before he injects the anesthetic into the male? What was his name? Mike, I think. They're all unmemorable names.
It's funny. They're unmemorable names, but each character has a gimmick that seems like were made up totally randomly that I'll never forget.
I feel like they were like five friends in the same way that the Breakfast Club was.
Yeah, they each have one identifiable quality. Like one guy's really into baseball cards, and that's his only trait.
Hang in there, Wade, buddy. I'm coming to get you.
Kristin Davis's character is the child of psychologists, that she's really into psychology, and that is her only trait.
Like that famous Zurich case when everyone thought that it was raining Frankfurters.
Yeah, Patty Mullen's like an airhead.
Patty Mullen's an airhead. Her boyfriend is very indecisive, so there's all weird moments where he'll be like,
Maybe we shouldn't go. Or should we?
Yeah, he's just like, should we go left or should we go right?
In the director's words, there's a really cool black guy.
Was that the words for him?
Yes.
He might have been cool, but did you see those socks and shoes he was wearing?
Weirdly, I didn't, because his wardrobe had so much going on. I was just working my way down. I was only to his belt by the time he got killed.
For such a low budget film, they really put a lot into that nameplate that he had of himself, the vanity plate.
Yes, they did.
Darnell.
I kept meaning to. I was like, I got to look up if his name really is Darnell, and he was like, "Oh, I have this nameplate."
Honey, Darnell's about to show you the meaning of God.
So the scene where he like the coroner is like filling the syringe with the anesthetic, and he's going through the process so slowly. It should have been like maybe like less than 10 seconds, and they dragged it out for at least a minute.
Even in the car crash in the opening, the thing that launches the story is this lawyer who's just gotten a big settlement is driving with his lover, and they end up getting in a car crash. But I swear they needed to extend the running time so much that they did too many shots back and forth between their car and the van that's going to hit them that it ends up ruining the effect.
Did you notice that the budget was so low that when she dies, you could see that she's wearing a red bathing suit that the character Kiki wears when they're picnicking?
I did not see that, but the opening shot of the movie is like a very New Jersey looking overpass and a car driving beneath it. And then they repeat that shot and it says like 10 years later or whatever, but it really just feels like 10 minutes later. Watching
the interview with the DP, he makes it seem like some of that was deliberate to play to like the Ed Wood filmmaking style, but I don't think so. I clearly can't buy all of that.
Yeah, it's hard because the movie totally is ridiculous and trying to be funny, but at other times you're not sure exactly to what extent. How about that DP's energy?
Didn't it seem at times it sounded like he was having a stroke?
I mean, it totally did. It seemed like I thought it was going to end with like his, like in memory of, and then his name and the dates. He seemed like he'd been, after this film, he went directly to like witnessing war crimes, did it for like 40 years. And then Arrow found him and was like, "Can we interview you for this film?" The look in his eyes disturbed me.
These things are real. Since I joined these men, I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
I'm wondering why out of all the people they got him and Ruth Collins that plays the punk girl Tina,
and the makeup artist guy.
How come they couldn't get anyone else? They couldn't get anyone else?
Well, that was the thing, that you and Kant couldn't save Patty Mullen from the Taliban, from where she recorded her Frankenhooker interview. Yeah, that's a special features joke about Arrow. But the most shameless way that they extend the running time of this movie is by using 5 different movies from the late 30s and early 40s, all starring the same actor that the distributor had the rights to. And the killer is just watching these movies in between killing. So he's killing someone, coming back and watching an old movie, always featuring the same actor. And the things that happen in the old movies vaguely echo what's happening in the movie, but it really is the most shameless thing I've ever seen. Now, my question for you is, where did this killer, who is completely deformed, where did he acquire these 5 VHS tapes?
I had so many questions about, just for the past 10 years, what was he living off of? What was he eating? Was he eating his victims?
I ordered Domino's. 30 minutes or less.
That was actually a better joke than some of his one-liners.
I was waiting to get to that. I think I can do a pretty good impression of him, but I can't even get them to the level that he does, because they're like anti-jokes. Like, it's not like Freddy, who usually just has like a one line. This is kind of like setting up a punchline, but then just not finishing it in a weird way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he kept like every line where he's like, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Luckily, I'm not a real doctor." Even that makes more sense.
I think one of the funnier ones was when he's fighting with that girl, the punk girl, and she's just like, "No, I'm a Republican. I voted for Reagan." And he's just like,
I respect your First Amendment right to the political beliefs of your choice, but I don't necessarily agree.
in all the films we watched so far, where do you rank this killer? Is he one of the weaker ones?
He is definitely the weakest. The weakest. But kind of likable.
What about Hellgate?
Ranger. Who was the that I like him better than that guy. The thing is, like, he's the weakest, but I kind of liked him. And they show way too much. How do I describe this? I'm really inarticulate so far, but I'm going to pick it up. They show too much footage of him just kind of like moving around and being normal, that it like really demystifies him. You're like, I can't believe I'm watching the killer right now do this. It's like watching Jason like eat a sandwich. You're like, why are you showing this?
Yeah, he's like in the catacombs with like a lantern, and he just like puts it next to his bed and lays down. He's just like, why are they showing him do this?
The shot of him walking down the catacombs with the lantern, they reused several times.
Was that the second crew? Because remember the DP said like the second crew had no business being there. They like really couldn't capture any usable footage.
And you know that was like the second unit when they shot that. They were like, "You're not going to believe what we got."
But did you like it? Did you find it like quirky and fun?
I did. That's the funny thing.
I feel like it will endure to like the same way where like we've come back around to Mutilator. I feel like in future episodes we'll refer to Doom Asylum as being a fun, likable film.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's a movie also, you know, you could have your phone out.
But, you know, for a film made in 1987, it certainly had that look of 1987, which I always like the characters, the punk characters, and especially with the restoration, I really like the vibrancy, especially like on the roof scene.
Oh, that
like those colors really pop, and those characters really pop.
That scene looks amazing. It's so crazy because I was watching it and I thought to myself as that scene was happening, I was like, has anything ever looked this good on this TV? I was like, I feel like it's like other things that look that good, like Planet Earth 2, you know, like nothing ever like the restoration of this movie is incredible.
Make this fucking scumbag big and hard.
Tina and the Tot. Okay, so to set it up, there's two groups, our main characters, and there's also a punk band, Tina and the Tots, who perform in the local sewers.
My question to you is, I had subtitles on it and the first time I watched it, and when they were playing, it said psychodrama, and they named the song. So was that actually the name of the band? Because the 5 people, like the Patty Mullen's crew, when they showed up, they called them Tina and the Tots. How would they know their band name?
Because they were famous for playing in the sewer. They were like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but all they did was play kind of incomprehensible punk.
That's Tina and the Tots. they play the local sewers.
But what? So you were saying about the Tina and the Tots?
Yeah, Tina and the Tots. You know, I remember how the original Turtles sewer playset could connect to the Technodrome. And you've got to figure there's other things in theory that are like, you know, the Turtles got to have neighbors. So Tina and the Tots are kind of like a distant neighbor who play punk in the sewer. One funny thing about this movie is that they said they didn't have like the budget or the time to shoot scenes where people ran away from the killer.
Well, that was budget, right?
Yeah. Everyone like spends so much time getting to where the killer is. So like they're just like walking down so many hallways for some dumb reason. And then they arrive at the killer and it's just like, I can't walk anymore. I'm all walked out. So I guess I'll just get killed.
Kristin Davis's character approaches the killer because she thought it was a delusion.
Her death is one of the only ones I'll defend.
Really?
Because she's like the psychologist character and she thinks like, at first she's like, oh, this is a delusion.
If you're a delusion, get lost.
And then she's like, oh, I can help you. So she sits down in the chair and is then killed. Everyone else kind of just freezes in place, but for no reason.
The first character that got killed, Darnell, he didn't really freeze. He was talking and dancing and he was just dancing against a door. And the killer, what weapon was that the killer used on him? It was just like
they were kind of like clamps. In the interview with the makeup artist, he was like, "That effect just didn't work. It didn't work. I feel bad about that one."
Would he even have killed somebody? I feel like he could get out of that one pretty easily. Did you happen to listen or pay attention to that guy's rap lyrics?
No. What did he say?
I wrote them down. I don't know what he means, but he said,
The asylum trick goes flick, flick, flick. I flick my bit. I eat my pick, tick, tick, tick.
I mean, that's obvious.
Okay, explain you understand poetry.
It's like a meta thing about watching the film. And it's just like our lives are kind of just animalistic and simple. And I'm just watching this asylum movie and soon I'll jerk off and eat and just go to sleep.
I eat my flicky, ticky, tick, tick.
Yeah.
I want to know what people think of that lyric. What does it mean to them? Just the same way of what does Wade Boggs mean to you?
What does Wade Boggs mean to me?
Remember when, not Wade Boggs.
What's a Wade Boggs? Sounds like some kind of a swamp creature.
Oh man, I messed up the quote when the baseball guy mentions Phil and Joe Necro.
Did you know that Joe and Phil Necro are the winningest brothers tandem ever in history?
All I know is Phil and Joe Necro remind me of me and you in Rocket League. Their skills have declined. They've got to hide like razor blades in their gloves, but they're still out there doing it, and they'll be good for like a 13-13 record.
That is true. Wait, were both Phil and Joe Necro known for cheating in their older years?
I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I mean, I hope word doesn't get to them. Just kidding. They surely must be dead. They were major leaguers in their 50s when we were children.
They're inspecting Phil Necro. They're saying he's either loading up the baseball or something.
I remember getting their baseball cards and thinking they were like the managers because they had gray hair.
Oh yeah, they looked older than like our fathers were in that period. It was like this guy's a baseball player. Like what the hell?
For some reason, it really took me back with all the scenes with Dennis talking about his baseball cards. And it was very disconcerting seeing the way he was wrapping the rubber band around his cards, which he considered them valuable. Remember the kids? Or remember the people that did that? Like clearly the complete disregard for their collection.
I don't know if I've told this story in the podcast before, but I know I've told it to you before. Both of my brothers were very into baseball cards growing up, and I was too, but like not as much as them. But I remember one day when they went to the baseball card shack, which was next to Mulcahy's in Wantagh. You know that place?
Oh yeah, what a shithole that was.
And you could sell cards there, and my brothers had like reasonable cards. They were like, "Oh, we got Dwight Gooden's rookie. Like we got this, we got that." And I was like 4 years old. I was really young. And I brought my cards, which were just like commons. And I gave it to the guy and I was like, how much for these? And the guy was so mean. He was just like, what is this? Kent Herbeck. These are commons. These are common cards.
Wait, Kent Herbeck wasn't a common?
Yes, it was. Yes, he
really? Remember the one where he's like double jointed? His leg was like completely bent inward.
Oh, everyone remembers that sliding Kent Herbeck card from 1984.
Did you see a baseball card come flying through here?
Rusty, what did you think? What was your favorite kill scene in the movie?
Well, I was perplexed by one of them. It wasn't really a kill scene, but when Tina fell into the conveyor belt, what was that killed her?
I think it was supposed to be that the conveyor belt was kind of like your classic cartoon random cuber. It was like a thing that cubes things, but I don't know why they'd have that in a abandoned insane asylum.
According to Ruth, that actually was a piece of machinery that was there. They didn't bring that in. So what would that be? What would that have been used for in an asylum?
My answer would be I don't know if I believe her, and I also don't know. Actually, I guess maybe it could have been there. It's probably just something to move boxes.
Or maybe it was like a bundler of boxes or refuse or something.
Oh, I used to think you guys were assholes, but now you saved my life. I don't know how to thank you.
I was just going to say, I remember when I worked at the movie theater in Levittown, and you remember, of course, that job.
I also remember the kid looking at you peeing.
Oh, that wasn't there. That was in Berkeley, California. Could not have been Berkeley versus Levittown. Could not be more different.
Believe it, asshole. Don't be so hostile, bitch.
Oh, but so the movie theater I worked at in Levittown, it was I can't remember if it was a Sony theater at that point or if it was still a Lowe's or whatever it was. And there was like a room where like a lot of stuff was stored upstairs, and then there was a room where the boxes would come down on this conveyor belt, and someone was like, "Hey, Dowdy, go get the slushy material, the slushy juice from the storage room, and like set it up at all the different like concession stands." And as I'm walking to the room, someone's like, "Oh, don't run the conveyor belt because it rained last night." And I'm like, what does that even matter? And I get in the room with the conveyor belt and the boxes are wet. And I'm like, well, it's fine. So I turn the conveyor belt on and it's like, burr, and it's delivering all the boxes. But there's like a little space between where the ramp ends and like it comes out onto like the thing. And so the boxes keep just falling apart and the slushy juice falling in that space and then shattering on the ground. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like struggling to turn this thing off. So much slushy juice got all over the floor. And then I like told someone, I was like, hey, something happened with the conveyor belt in there. I don't know. I came across it and it's all messed up. And a manager even gathered all of us together to be like, who did this? And then they were like, who is the one who found the mess? And I was like, I did. And they were like, huh, okay. And I could just tell they suspected me. I mean, I was horrible at that job.
Did you get fired for that? Or did you get fired in general?
I did not get fired. I just stopped going, which is funny to me.
That was your MO.
That was my MO. Whenever someone would say like, oh, there's going to be, like I worked at Adventureland, the amusement park, and they were like, oh, Memorial Day, that's a crazy weekend. It gets really busy. I'm like, I guess I'm not going.
Yeah. You know, that drama was kind of hot.
So favorite death scene?
Yeah. What was yours?
I mean, the one that probably was the coolest looking maybe would have been Rapunzel's when she got her head dipped in like the hydrochloric acid. But the one I liked them.
I'll say when the saw goes into Kristin Davis's head. I mean, the obvious mannequin. I was like, whoa, that looks pretty intense. And what about the drill? The drill going into the head of the baseball card guy.
Oh, that was probably the most realistic looking one.
Yeah, because I don't even know exactly how they pulled that off.
They probably pulled the drill inward.
Yeah, no, the drill had a spring. but it was still going into his head. And they said that there was no plate like guarding his head. So like they were like, I hope we don't kill this guy.
What about the guy you lobotomized? Did he get a refund?
And he's dead.
And he is dead. It was sad too because he had a great career in front of him.
And I don't even have malpractice insurance.
You know what I want to know though? You know the character Mike when he's what was he? He was like paralyzed, and the coroner is like cutting his toes off one by one,
mm-hmm.
but he just left him without his toes. And are we to assume that Mike is dead from that because we never see his character again? I don't think that would kill you.
Wow, I did not realize that. Although you'd be surprised, wounds to the feet can be quite bad.
Well, if gangrene sets in,
but also because my brother told me this, that like people think head wounds are the worst, but like you can really bleed a lot out of your feet. So I bet if someone cut off his toe, maybe he would have died. Look, none of this stuff. No one should perform surgery based on the things I've said. This is not a full medical education.
Can we hold you to this? Can we test it out on you?
You know, another funny thing. At one point, the characters are like, I hear there's someone here and he kills people with autopsy tools. I was like, I didn't even know what an autopsy tool was until I saw this movie.
I just assumed it was some saws and things to get through the chest cavity. But yeah, I guess there's some drills. How's he charging? How's he charging these drills? What is he doing?
I don't know. I assumed it was a pogo ball and a Roby. I don't know.
Pogo ball is what they call it when you're hopping and bopping everywhere. Pogo ball is what they call it when you're rocking and rolling in the air.
What was your favorite death scene? Oh, you said Jane's death? Kristin Davis?
I mean, it's so violent, and it's just something about the way that they made like the jaw of the mannequin kind of shake when it gets hit by the saw. I don't know. That was pretty gross to me. I mean, it's so clearly a mannequin, but also it was just like, Jesus.
It's so clearly a mannequin. It's like what I aspired to when I was like putting together a haunted house when I was a kid. Like I really felt I could create props like that. Would just get some clay and put it on like one of those foam heads that you put wigs on and stuff. Did you ever do that?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean, I always had haunted houses because whenever I had relatives over, I was like, time to make some money.
You know what? As a kid, though, it was always the funnest part was always like creating the creation process, but the actual execution always fell short. Like playing with toys, like setting up like an epic battle scene was more fun than like going through the motions. And same with a haunted house. Like I remember like with our friend Eric, like just spending an afternoon making props for it. But then once we set up the haunted house and would invite like Larry over to go through it, like it was a disaster.
Oh, I'm sure. But I used to, when I would have haunted houses at my house, the objective would be to like make money. And I so clearly knew that I was like fleecing my relatives. So I was a bit of like a sham man. By the time the execution happened, I was halfway to the next town looking to buy some NES games.
Did you go in the living room like a carnival barker, like, come on, come all, come into the haunted house if you dare?
I did actually. And I was like, but everyone needs $1 cash.
Remember getting those really shitty like magic kits?
I was thinking about that exact thing because I also used to do magic shows. I have one good trick, but can't quite reveal it on the air.
What's that? I promise I'll edit it out of the show.
It's when you have a quarter in one hand and then you slap both hands to your chest and then rub it, and then it's in the other hand, but you've really thrown it to your other hand as you're about to do it. But you know, we're all pretty good at it, like a circus family, but with only that one thing.
Can't sit Indian style, but can do the old quarter throw trick.
I just got my 23andMe results, and it mentioned that I had a high likelihood of not being able to sit Indian style, and it said I was 30% a lawyer turned evil demented coroner.
This little piggy went to market.
What has to go wrong in your life for you to become that character?
He's finally lost all of his hair. And his Zelda save game file. He won't be seeing Ganon anytime soon. Someone opened his Lobot
Mitch on guard.
I really feel like this is your calling to do that impression, except there's very little market for it.
There's so few people who've probably seen this movie. I'm gonna have to call people who are involved in the film, and they're like, "Who's calling?" And I'm like, "You might not recognize my name, but you'll recognize my voice." It's like, I was the gaffer on a movie Doom Asylum where the guy sounded like this. Is this that actor? No. I don't know where to take this bit, but it could have been a great one.
This is what I got. And this is what you're gonna get.
I'll tell you about weird coincidences involving this movie. When I was watching the special features, they mentioned that they filmed it near Montclair, New Jersey, and I was like, "Why did I just hear about Montclair, New Jersey?" And I was like, "Oh, it was in the play Burn This," and I was like, "I wonder if there's any like productions of that currently." Then I look it up. I see that there's a new production opening on Broadway next year with Adam Driver, who I did the impression of, and Kerry Russell from The Americans. So,
oh my God,
he's seeing signs everywhere he looks. He should find a stop sign.
That's the best one. I did a little bit of research, and I'm pretty sure the Asylum, the film was shot at the Essex County Asylum in Verona, New Jersey, which then became the Overbrook. The Asylum obviously closed down, but in 1978 alone, I got this little fact that there was 150 reports of missing patients, one of whom walked off in his pajamas, broke into a Cedar Grove home, took a carving knife and hammer, and tried to abduct the housewife.
It's a little creepy that I was born in 1978 and this happened that year.
This is the makings of a Michael Myers.
He escaped from the asylum and started collecting Odd Pond Man toys. No, I can't keep the voice going. It's shredding my vocal cords.
Yeah, it's like doing a Macho Man impression.
Yeah, unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah, Macho Madness, has got more to offer.
Rusty, you know one moment of the movie that I just found so funny, but I can't even. When they're first driving to the asylum,
yeah,
and Patty Mullen is like, "This is right where my mother died," and
that's a good impression, by the way.
They pull over, and like they're looking around, and they find like a mirror, I think it is, that belonged to her mother.
Yeah,
and Patty Mullen goes, the guy's like, "What is it?" And she goes, "My mother." But the line has such a weird delivery. Do you not remember this line? It was like, it was like, I don't know what emotion she was going for. It's like so neutral. She's like, "My mother." Just play a sample.
What is it?
My mother's?
What was the deal with her calling Mike Mom?
Can I call you Mom?
I think that was just an extension of her, like, they all had their thing, and so that was like, her thing was that she was so fucking weird.
Kept interjecting that throughout the film, like were they even dating? Because remember when he like picks up the condom?
What do you say?
But Mom, that's incest.
Yeah, no, they were dating. They're definitely dating.
We talked about this the other day, but what did you think of Patty Mullen in this film? Attractiveness wise.
I've got to tell you, I have a real problem with that.
Attractiveness wise, wow. I didn't know we were putting things on that level. I think she was attractive.
Do you think if you've seen this in like the late 80s, early 90s, would that have been your thing? You know?
Yeah, definitely. As a kid, like a blonde lady, I would have been like, hubba hubba, but her voice would have ruined it for me. I
feel like I would have been very into Kristin Davis.
Oh yeah, her as well. Her as well.
Delicious.
I had a huge crush on her from Melrose Place when she was Brooke Armstrong.
You even tried to move into Melrose Place as a.
They wouldn't allow me.
Yeah,
I was too much of a peeping Tom. I was looking into Sydney's window and Jane's window.
Looks like we got ourselves a peeping Tom, guys.
I love Sydney.
Yeah. I think everybody did. I think that was every. I think once Jane grew out her hair, though, I got into her for a while. Do you remember when Allison, Courtney Thorne-Smith's character, remember when she was blind and she had to play a blind character on the show for a while?
I vaguely do.
But yeah, I mean, as a kid, man, to see like Kristin Davis, this frolicking around in that bathing suit, the high cut bathing suit.
I can't let a mention of Melrose Place go by without mentioning the time my mother caught me jerking off to Melrose Place.
That's a big meatball to throw out there.
It was late at night.
How old were you when it was like first airing?
Too old. I was like 17 or 18. And it was just so late at night, and I was kind of just sitting there, and Melrose Place was on, and I think Sydney, it was like a repeat, or, it was obviously like a late at night kind of thing. And I was like, oh, Sydney's so hot. I kind of like jerked off. And then the worst thing was, I never, especially then, I would jerk off and then immediately have like Catholic guilt and like scurry off to like a cave. But I was like, I'm just going to sit here. I was like, I'm just going to sit here for once and just not clean up immediately. Just sit here with the jizz on my belly beneath my hardcore band, which is horrible, shirt. Anyway, it was in that state that my mother walked in on me and she went, oh, Jesus. And she's like, I thought you did that in your room. I was like, you don't knock? And she's like, I thought you did that in your room. And then in like a funny voice, I was like, I do whatever I fucking want. And then she laughed and I laughed, and then we never spoke about it again.
Maybe you're forgetting, but I can do you a lot of harm. I don't want to, but if you keep acting like this, then believe me, I will. Let's forget about this conversation. I'll just make you a sandwich.
Oh, parents are so understanding. Did you have your dick out, though?
Yeah, but it was like, thank God I did not have an erection. It was after, so it was like,
So you're flaccid just sitting there?
The size of a baby's pinky.
My mom had a habit of never knocking. Mm-hmm. I think she was just clueless, so I always had a blanket over me just for cases like that.
I didn't lock my bedroom door. As you might remember, my dad came through doors like the wacky neighbor on a sitcom.
Like the Kool-Aid Man.
Well, yeah, exactly. The Kool-Aid Man. He would like explode through the door. I hated when he would wake me up for school. It was like, I won!
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. Huh?
It reminds me of one time I was leaving the bathroom after wanking, and I had a magazine underneath my shirt, and I was walking past my brother Jim's open doorway, and he was like, what's underneath your shirt? And I was like, a magazine? And he goes, why? And I said, I don't know. And then I just went in my room, and I was so like embarrassed and ashamed. But the fucked up thing? The magazine was Esquire. I didn't even have to have that under my shirt. I could have carried that normally. It was like a photo spread of like a model, like just, amidst all the other stuff that's in Esquire.
When you're that age and you're just like a fiend, and anything excites you, like fucking like the J.C. Penney's catalog or the Sears catalog, like the littlest glimpse of lingerie would just throw me over the edge.
I used to love Sundays going through the big Newsday Sunday paper and taking out all like the circulars. And it was this is like Christmas.
My brother had a subscription to Sports Illustrated, so like I really coveted the swimsuit issues.
Yeah,
but I knew I couldn't hoard them because my brother actually cataloged his Sports Illustrated issues for a while. So I wasn't allowed another subscription, so I had to get what was the other rip-off magazine? Was it like This Sport or something like that?
Oh yeah.
And they had a swimsuit issue too, and it was definitely like a lesser degree of models, but they were still attractive. And when that swimsuit issue came, like that was like the holy grail to me. And what I would do, I would rip out all the pages so I could look at the back and front, and I'd bring them into the shower with me. And I know what you're thinking. How did you bring magazine pages into the shower? You know how like when you get an autograph and you'd have that clear like protective sheet?
Yeah, I guess so.
I would put it into that and tape it onto the wall of the shower.
Wow.
So I had autographs of like former Mets like Jerry Grote and Ron Swoboda, and meanwhile I'd have like a picture tucked over them, so I'd still see like part of their like uniform as I'm looking at.
Wow, part of their wow, that sordid memory felt like literature to me in some way. Like the putting it in the autograph thing with seeing the uniform. Wow.
Tell everybody the pervert is back.
It's funny. It's almost I don't know if this is going to go in, but it's almost sad to think about the ways when you're a kid that you would think about how to better yourself, because it was like, first of all, like you wish you could just accept yourself, but also like it was so unrealistic. Like I was always like, if I just got those shoes that increase your vertical leap by like a foot, like with the giant soles, you know. And I was like,
I think Kramer wore them in an episode of Seinfeld.
Really? I don't remember that. I was like, if I just got those, I'd be able to jump so high and like I could be in the NBA, but I guess I'm not going to do it yet.
Oh my God. I really thought the Reebok pumps would change my life.
Oh yeah.
I had the tennis pumps and the Shaquille O'Neal basketball pumps and the D. Brown pumps. In fact, I think the Shaquille O'Neals were pretty heavy. I think they hindered my vertical leap. I think I lost like an inch.
Oh my God. We could talk about shoe gimmicks forever. I feel like not enough attention has been given to the catapult shoe. That should have been whoever came up with that.
What's the catapult shoe?
It was like I think British Knights, maybe.
Oh my God, that was like the inferior brand.
Oh yeah, but it was. I can't believe you don't remember this. It was like a piece of plastic would like shoot out of the heel, as if that was going to propel your body weight up. You don't remember that?
No, weren't British Knights always like the first prize on like Nickelodeon shows like Guts and stuff? Like just for participating on Guts, you got a pair of British Knights.
They often were. I don't know if it was British Knights because I feel like it was British Knights. I remember they had like both the light up shoes and the ones that had like the quad gel like thing.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what. I feel like this was like a real brand, but not Reebok or Nike, obviously. But whatever like the third one was.
LA Gear.
Oh, I don't know.
LA Gear had the light up shoes.
Yeah, they did.
Were you a fan of Guts, by the way?
Yeah, definitely.
How infuriating was it to watch the fucking contestants on that show like fumble through obstacles or on the courses or like in the kayak? Like I always thought I could excel in every like task that they had.
Yeah, me too. I think we've talked about this in the podcast before, but one of my recurring dreams is like being on Double Dare and like my partner just failing and being like, "Let me pick the nose."
I recently read a thing about Double Dare. Like it was like doomed to fail. Like on the first episode, like they had like impossible obstacles and stuff.
Really?
That they had like, and they would forget to put the flags in.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Certain things, so kids would just be looking.
I know there was a recent documentary about Mark Summers.
Wasn't he a germaphobe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I randomly put on Double Dare once, like, 10 years ago, but when I was like an adult. And there was a moment where Mark Summers was like heartless, like an agent at William Morris. And it got like really dark. And I was like, wow, it's like, that's a moment no kid would ever know what that meant. But it was a weird moment for Mark.
Of all those Nickelodeon shows, which show did you want to be on the most?
I mean, Double Dare, of course.
Did you have the Double Dare home version?
Yeah, I did. But even as a kid, I opened it up. And I was like, fuck you.
Do you remember the home version of Finders Keepers? And you just hide objects around your house?
I like just posted about this on someone like posted like the art for it on Instagram, and I was like, I hate this game. But I don't even think it was. I think it was like you could hide things around your house as an option, or they also had like cardboard boxes that were like photos of the rooms on the show, and it was like, oh, just fill this cardboard box up with junk from your house, and then put like the secret item in it. And even as a little kid, I was like, wow, like you felt like you were getting ripped off.
What a piece of junk!
Back to Doom Asylum. Did you notice all the graffiti painted around the asylum? A lot of tribute to metal bands.
Really? I didn't notice, really.
Really? You didn't see the big Metallica, Megadeth, Exodus, Ozzy?
Wow.
I thought that was intentional, but it was actually just painted there.
Wait, you mean it was already there, you're saying?
Yeah, it was already, all the graffiti existed there. They had a low budget, they weren't hiring a set designer.
So one thing about this movie, it's such a dopey movie and intentionally corny.
You're in a lot of trouble, torpedo tits.
And I didn't know exactly how intentionally corny it was going to be until like that first scene where Patty Mullen is like, "Can I call you Mom?"
Hey, Mom, be careful!
And I thought I was like, oh, I can imagine watching this as a kid and just like laughing hysterically at it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember movies that when you were a kid, like some of the first movies you watched and laughed at with your friends as like a bonding exercise?
Yeah, definitely. The movie that my friends and I found hilarious was Disorderlies with the Fat Boys. Do you remember that?
I do, but I never saw it.
Oh my God. We would watch it. We'd have sleepovers and we'd watch it. And the people that didn't get it were lame to us.
Wait, but I don't mean that you found it funny, because there was bad movies I found funny on their own terms, like Repossessed. I thought that was the fucking funniest movie ever. Did you ever see that movie with Leslie Nielsen, kind of an exorcist?
Of course, yeah.
But the part where it was like the showdown between him and the devil possessed girl, and then it cuts to like Mean Gene Okerlund. I was dying laughing. I thought that was the height of comedy. I mean, something that you laughed at, like in the way that you watch a movie and make fun of it, in the way that someone might watch like Hellgate and laugh at how it's corny. I remember we went through a phase in high school of renting straight-to-video horror movies that were definitely intentionally campy, and we'd watch them to make fun of them, like Jack Frost.
Gosh, I only asked you for a smoke.
Yeah, a lot of the Trauma films were like that as well.
Yeah. But it was funny because Trauma you would like try to do that with, but I always I don't know. Whenever I'd watch a Trauma movie, I kind of felt like I'd dug through the garbage for something that I didn't even want. I just felt dirty for no reason.
Do you think, though, as a kid or a teen, you would have liked this movie or hated it?
I think I probably would have liked it.
I think I would have liked it. I think I would have liked it, for Kristin Davis and Patty Mullen in bathing suits.
Yeah.
That would appeal to me. And then I always liked like the look of movies like that.
Yeah.
Like it just had like a cool look, even though it was it's not a good movie, but it looked cool. And the characters were supposed to be cool. Like any punk characters always appeal to me. So seeing like the three of them. You know what line I hated though?
What?
When Darnell and Tina are going back and forth, and he says to her like,
"Screw you, spikehead! Hey, why don't you consider a job as a porcupine?"
I don't remember that line. The line I didn't like during, I'm not sure if it was that exchange, but when she's looking at him from the roof and she was like, "He has nice eyes." And I was like, his eyes from this distance? That's such a weird quality to pick out. The actor who played Darnell, when he's going down that hallway on his way to get killed by the guy, he like his facial expressions are like Jim Carrey, a young Jim Carrey, and he's just given everything.
I actually liked his acting there, his narration of like his emotions.
Yeah, me too. In general, I found his character was like likable in that way, and he was just so big that it was like, oh, what is happening? What is even the name of the killer? I don't know. What's the name of the killer?
Mitch?
Oh yeah, Mitch. That's such a bad name for a killer. I love the moment after. So during their fight, she flings him over the side of the building, and he's just hanging there for a while. And she's like, ha, 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 ha,
you're screaming at him
and doing like the laugh and everything.
I got you, fucker.
And then he hears, is it Patty Mullen in trouble? And he like vaults.
Oh, I actually found that funny.
He like vaults over her and then runs back inside. And I love that moment.
That was quite a bit of athleticism there too.
It really was. Like
obviously he hoisted himself back up down the ledge, but then he like does like a vault like that you would see in gymnastics.
Yeah.
Like on the pommel horse. You know, I also found it a little bit funny when he finds her and she's like freaking out and she's like shaking him. And he's just like, and she's like, "Where's Jane?" And she's freaking out. And he's just like, "It wasn't a mass delusion. It was a psychopath." And she's like, "What's a psychopath?" and just like played well in that scene.
I also liked so Kristin Davis's character, her reason for trying to go off alone, she's like, the labyrinth, it's a classic psychological symbol. And she's like, I need some time to explore this. And then she like walks off. And then later when Patty Mullen encounters the guy, she's like, where have you been or whatever. And she's like,
You're all right. Of course I am. Haven't you ever heard of the labyrinth, symbol of inner consciousness?
and kind of just like trails off. And that was a really funny moment.
Patty Mullen was good in it.
Yeah, she really is.
She was good, just like in Frankenhooker. She doesn't have many lines, but
between that and Frankenhooker, it's kind of sad because you're like, oh, I feel like she could have really had like a big kind of mainstream comedy career.
I wonder whatever happened to Willie McCovey.
Who's Willie McCovey?
the thing I want to know what you thought. At what point did Mitch, the coroner, the demented coroner, recognize Kiki as her mother?
Yeah, I guess we haven't said that Patty Mullen plays two roles, and she appears as her mother in the opening flashback sequence.
That gets
and
killed.
so it's kind of a bit like Bram Stoker's Dracula, and in the end, he's like he thinks that she is his love, long lost love.
But I'm not Judy, I'm Kiki.
But he only realized that like once they got outside the asylum.
Yeah.
Like when he tied her up and stuff, did he recognize it? Because he didn't call her Judy until he was chasing her outside.
He only recognized his former lover in direct sunlight. That was just the lighting. That was the lighting he was familiar with her in. She was a ray of sunshine in my life. Now she's dead.
I love the laugh. When the role of the mother that dies in the beginning, she loses her arm. Did you notice that he was like scratching his face with like the desiccated hand later on?
I did notice that, yeah.
So he held onto that as a memento of his love for her.
Yeah. Rusty, in what circumstance would you recommend someone watch this?
I would say get a group of friends together on like a rainy night, get some junk food, put the movie on, and have fun. Yeah. It's only 78 minutes of your life. It's a quick one.
Yeah. It would have been more fun with friends. I was thinking about that when I was watching it. In fact, I tried to make it fun for myself by getting up and moving seats and taking on the role of different characters who would be my friends, you know? Like I moved to like the chair and I was like, this is lame. And I moved to the other seat and I was like, dude, look at that.
Which persona did you take on the most watching the film?
I think you already know the answer. Just look inside your heart. I think you already know the answer.
Yeah. You're killing me. I need to know.
Please rate the podcast 5 stars. We'll stop asking when we get some ratings.
Final thoughts. Are we done?
Final thoughts.
Next episode.
DOOM Asylum. It was a fun movie. That's all I can say about that.
That's all. What are you, Forrest Gump over there now?
One last. I can't. You're going to use a few of these. So, do you think you'll ever watch DOOM Asylum again?
You know what it is? It's funny because after every film we've watched, I don't think I'll watch any of those films again because I like do it like on overdrive, just watching the film and all the content and the features over like within a span of like a week, and then now I have no like interest in watching any of the films we've discussed. So I don't know.
We get the Arrow Blu-rays, we burn them, we move on.
So next episode, are you revealing what we're doing?
I think I can reveal that we will be doing We Are the Flesh, and we will have a member of the Mexican film industry to provide some international perspective. We're going to have a guest bringing us an international view.
Very cool.
And I think it'll be an interesting episode because I think the Mexican film industry has a lot of interesting things about it, and this guy is a well-placed insider who's going to tell us about it.
And that's it. We'll see you next time.
That's it. We'll see you next time. And
do you have anything else you want to say?
I guess I would just say, check out
I can't. Okay. Well, I keep holding my breath, so I'm like about to pass out. I guess I would say, Doom Asylum. I need help.
Don't help! I'm not Judy, I'm Kiki.
Bet you got that skirt off quicker last night.
You'll never know. Don't